Okay, wow. Can we just talk about that ending to day 2 of the India-Australia test? I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a nail-biter.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Border Gavaskar Trophy is always a tense series.
Oh, yeah.
But this one, I mean, it's really living up to the hype.
It really is. This series has had just everything you could ask for. Incredible batting, some really tight bowling spells, and I mean, just twists and turns galore.
You're not kidding. We're
Yeah.
taking a deep dive today into a match report from the Telegraph India, and things are getting really, really interesting.
Oh, they are.
Australia ended the day with a strong lead, 405 for 7,
Right.
but it was not an easy road to get there.
No, it wasn't. And that's really where we should start this deep dive, because one man in particular made life very difficult for the Aussies.
Yeah,
Jasprit Bumrah.
Bumrah was phenomenal today.
Wasn't he just?
5-wicket haul.
Yeah.
Ended with figures of 5 for 72.
Unbelievable.
It felt like he single-handedly kept India in the game.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the number of wickets, it was when he got them. You know, think about it. Australia was cruising at 75 for 3 after his spell in the morning.
Yeah.
Picked off both of those openers early, put the Aussies on the back foot right from the get-go.
Yeah, you could just feel the momentum shifting with every wicket that Bumrah took.
You really could.
And then later on, he breaks that really dangerous partnership between Smith and Head.
That was a turning point for Australia.
Yeah.
You know, they were rebuilding quite steadily there, and for a while it looked like they might just run away with the game.
Mm-hmm.
But then Bumrah comes back in,
Yep.
gets the breakthrough,
Right.
that wicket of Smith right after he reached his century.
Ooh.
That was crucial.
It was like a deflating moment for Australia. You know? Wade worked so hard to get back in the game, and then boom, Bumrah just strikes again.
I mean, the man has a knack for breaking partnerships at the most important moments.
He does.
And we can't forget that later dismissal of Mitch Marsh, too.
Right.
I mean, those 4 wickets were huge in preventing Australia from just building a truly massive lead.
Right. I mean, it's incredible to think about where India would be right now if Bumrah hadn't delivered that performance.
Yeah.
Which honestly makes the struggles of the other Indian bowlers even more obvious.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Apart from Bumrah, the Indian bowling attack looked a little bit toothless today.
Yeah, Mohammad Siraj has had his good moments in this series,
He has.
but today he seemed a little off.
Yeah.
The report mentioned he was battling a leg injury,
Oh, right.
which could be a factor.
Oh, for sure. An injury can totally throw off a bowler's rhythm and their effectiveness.
Absolutely.
And when you're facing a batting lineup like Australia's, you need to be at your absolute best.
100%.
Yeah.
And then there's Akash Deep making his debut in this test.
Right.
There was a lot of talk about his inclusion,
There was.
so I was really curious to see how he would perform.
Yeah, a debut in a match like this, it's a trial by fire. And while he didn't pick up any wickets, his economy rate was actually fairly decent. You know, he didn't give away too many easy runs, which is a good sign for a debutant.
Right, I think that's fair. You can't expect him to come in and just replicate Bumrah's magic right away.
No, you can't.
But it does raise the question,
Yeah,
is it enough to contain the runs against a team like Australia?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Containing the runs is important, but at the end of the day, you've got to take wickets to win test matches.
Exactly.
And that's where India struggled today, apart from Bumrah's heroics, of course.
Right. Which brings us to Ravindra Jadeja.
Okay.
He's usually so reliable,
He is.
both with bat and ball.
Yeah.
But today, well, it wasn't his day.
No, it wasn't. Went wicketless in his 16 overs.
Yeah.
And was quite expensive, too. Gave away a lot of runs.
It was a surprising performance, especially considering his track record.
Yeah, it was.
It makes me wonder about the decision to drop Washington Sundar after that first test. Sundar was doing well,
He was.
and now Jadeja's struggling. Do you think India might consider bringing Sundar back into the team if this continues?
I think it's a possibility. They might even think about bringing Ashwin back in. You know, especially if they feel like they need some more spin options on this pitch.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So we were just talking about all the selection decisions for the Indian team, but before we dive deeper into that, I have to say, I am dying to know what happened after Australia declared their innings, that target of 511 runs. It just felt like an impossible task.
Oh, it was a mammoth task. There's no doubt about that. It really tested the character of the Indian batting lineup. They had to dig deep, fight for every run, knowing that one mistake could cost them the match.
So how did they approach this daunting chase? Were there any signs of life, any glimmers of hope for India?
There were a few moments where it felt like they might just pull off the impossible. Rohit Sharma, as always, came out with that positive intent, looking to score quickly and try to put some pressure back on the Australian bowlers.
Right. Sharma's attacking style is just so thrilling to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's on form, it feels like he can hit any bowler out of the park. Did he manage to make a significant contribution?
He did. He played a solid knock, scored 67 runs before falling to Pat Cummins.
Cummins.
Yeah, Cummins was bowling really well for Australia, swinging the ball, getting just enough movement to trouble the Indian batsman.
Cummins, the captain, fantastic. He's not just a brilliant bowler, he's a real shrewd tactician as well. You could see him out there constantly thinking, adjusting his field, trying to outmaneuver the Indian batsman.
A true leader, and his bowling in this test match has been exemplary. He kept asking questions, put the batsmen under constant pressure, just never let them settle.
So Sharma falls to Cummins, but what about the rest of the Indian batting lineup? Did anyone else step up and try to fill the void?
Cheteshwar Pujara played his typical gritty innings, anchoring one end, showing that trademark resilience.
Right.
Battled hard ground out 85 runs, but it was Shreyas Iyer who really provided the fireworks for India.
Iyer had a fantastic series leading up to this test, so I was really eager to see how he'd handle this pressure situation. Did he live up to the expectations?
Oh, he exceeded them. Played an absolutely magnificent innings, scored 109 runs off just 127 balls.
Wow.
It was a masterclass in aggressive batting. He took on the Australian bowlers, hit them to all parts of the ground, and for a while it genuinely felt like he might just single-handedly win the match for India.
A century in a run chase like that against a bowling attack like Australia's.
Yeah.
That must have been incredible to watch.
It was truly special, the way he blended aggression and calculated risk-taking. It was a lesson in how to play under pressure. And his partnership with Pujara, they added 161 runs for the fifth wicket.
Wow.
That was the highlight of India's innings. They frustrated the Australian bowlers for a long stretch, and that's when the belief really started to grow that maybe, just maybe, India could pull off this miracle.
You say they frustrated the bowlers. Can you paint us a picture of what that looked like? What were some of the tactics they were using?
Well, Pujara, with his rock-solid defense, was the perfect foil for Iyer's flamboyance. They rotated the strike effectively, picking up singles and twos, and Iyer, when the opportunity presented itself, he unleashed those powerful strokes, sending the ball soaring over the boundary ropes. It was a fascinating contrast of styles, but it worked brilliantly for India.
So for a while, it felt like the tide was turning. But as they say, all good things must come to an end.
Yeah.
How did Australia manage to regain control and wrap things up?
Well, once Iyer was dismissed, the air went out of India's sails a bit. The lower order couldn't offer much resistance, and Cummins continued his demolition, picked up another couple of crucial wickets. Mitchell Starc also chipped in with a couple, proving once again why he's considered one of the most dangerous bowlers in the world.
Stark, the man with a golden arm.
Yeah.
He always seems to find a way to break through when his team needs it the most.
Yeah.
So what was the final score? How did this epic battle conclude?
India eventually folded for 378, giving Australia a comfortable victory by 133 runs. It was a disappointing result for India, especially after that glimmer of hope they provided.
Yeah.
But there were definitely some individual performances that they can take heart from.
Yes. Iyer's century was a truly remarkable achievement. And Pujara, once again, just showed his immense value to the team. But ultimately, it was Australia who played the more consistent cricket over those 5 days, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. Their batting was undeniably strong. Head and Smith leading the way, and their bowling attack, spearheaded by Cummins and Starc, proved too potent for India on this particular pitch.
Right.
They deservedly take a 2-1 lead in the series, which sets up a thrilling finale in the fourth test.
We're going to need another deep dive just to unpack all the implications of this third test.
We probably will.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and just consider the broader narrative of this series. We've had 3 tests so far, each with its own unique story to tell. Can you remind us how those first 2 matches unfolded? It feels like we've been glued to our seats for weeks now with this back-and-forth battle for the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
It has been an amazing series.
3 tests down and 1 to go. But before we get to that nail-biting finale, remind me how this whole roller coaster ride started.
Well, the series kicked off over in Perth.
Right.
And you're right, it was a roller coaster from the first ball.
Yeah.
Australia really set the tone early with a very convincing win in that first test.
Yeah.
They piled on the runs in their first innings and really just put India under immense pressure right from the start.
So that pattern of strong Australian batting kind of dictating the match, that started way back in Perth.
It did.
Did India show any signs of resistance, or were they just completely outplayed?
It was a tough match for India. They struggled to contain the Australian batsmen, and then they couldn't quite match that run-scoring prowess when it was their turn to bat.
Right.
It was a very comprehensive victory for the Aussies in the end, and it left India with a lot of questions to answer.
And did they answer those questions in the second test?
Oh, they did. The one in Delhi.
Right.
That was a complete turnaround for India.
Wow.
They came back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
Outplayed Australia in every department.
Really?
Their bowlers were on fire. Their batsmen were in top form.
Okay.
And they really just dominated the match from start to finish. It was a resounding win for India, leveled the series, and just injected this huge dose of excitement back into the contest.
Okay, so we have a dominant win for Australia in the first test.
Right?
Followed by an equally dominant win for India in the second.
Right.
Talk about setting the stage for an epic showdown.
Yeah.
And then we have this third test.
Right.
With Australia regaining the upper hand.
Yep.
What have been some of the biggest takeaways for you from this series so far?
Well, one thing that's been consistent throughout the series is just the strength of the Australian batting lineup.
Okay.
I mean, Travis Head has been a revelation, scoring centuries in back-to-back matches, and then Steve Smith, after a bit of a lean patch, seems to have rediscovered his magic touch.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been the cornerstones of Australia's batting success.
And on the Indian side, you can't talk about key performers without mentioning Jasprit Bumrah.
Oh, no, he can't.
He's been a one-man army at times, carrying the Indian bowling attack on his shoulders.
Bumrah has been exceptional. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But you've hit on a really crucial point there. It's that reliance on Bumrah.
Yeah.
It's almost exposed one of India's weaknesses in this series.
What's that?
The inconsistency of their other bowlers.
You're right. You can have the best bowler in the world,
You can.
but you can't expect him to win every match single-handedly.
No, you can't.
Cricket is a team sport.
It is.
And India needs a more collective effort from their bowlers.
Yeah.
If they want to level this series in that final test. Absolutely.
And it's not just about the bowling.
No.
India's batting, while showing those flashes of brilliance,
Right.
hasn't been as consistent as Australia's.
Okay.
They've had their moments, like Iyer's century in this third test,
Yeah.
but they just haven't been able to put together those complete batting performances that win test matches.
Right. Right.
So as we head into this final test,
Yeah.
both teams have a lot to play for.
They do.
Australia looking to seal the series victory.
Yeah.
India desperate to level things up
Uh-huh.
and reclaim that Border Gavaskar trophy.
Yep.
What are you most looking forward to in this final chapter?
Oh, for me, the biggest question is how India responds to this latest setback.
Yeah,
They've shown that they can bounce back from adversity,
they have.
like they did after that first test loss.
Uh-huh.
But can they do it again?
Right.
With the pressure even higher this time?
Yeah.
And for Australia,
Yeah.
can they maintain their composure,
Right.
avoid any complacency?
And finish the job they started so well.
It's going to be a fascinating contest.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It is.
The momentum has swung back and forth throughout this entire series.
Yeah,
And it's really anyone's guess who will ultimately lift that trophy.
it really is.
This deep dive has really just scratched the surface of this epic battle.
I think so.
There's so much more to unpack. The tactical battles, the individual performances,
Yeah.
the emotional roller coaster that comes with a series of this magnitude.
I mean, we can talk for hours about the nuances of this series.
I think we could.
But I think what makes it so compelling is that it's about more than just cricket.
Right.
It's about the clash of two cricketing cultures, two proud nations,
Yeah.
each battling for supremacy on the world stage. And that's a story that I think transcends the sport itself.
Beautifully put. We've analyzed the matches, dissected the performances, and debated the turning points.
Right.
But ultimately, the true magic of a series like this is that unpredictable drama.
It is.
The unscripted moments that create those lasting memories.
Yeah,
That final test is going to be a must-watch.
absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
we leave you with a final thought. What will be the defining moment of this series? Who will emerge as the hero?
Right.
Who will have to bear the weight of defeat?
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
So to all of our listeners,
Yeah.
keep those scorecards handy. Buckle up for a thrilling finale, and join us again as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cricket.